Hello, everybody, and welcome to my LinkedIn Live show. This is show number 2. Today, we're going to be talking about social well-being. So you may recall last month, we talked about this idea about me at my best and 6 dimensions that constitute each of us becoming our better selves. Social well-being being one of those important aspects. So today we have a fabulous guest. I am so excited. I'm excited to introduce you to Smiley Poswolsky, and he is a millennial workplace expert. He's a keynote speaker. He's the author of The Quarter Life Breakthrough. He's also the author of the Breakthrough Speaker. And next month, Smiley, I know you're so excited about this. He has his book coming out, which is so important, especially right now, called Friendship in the Age of Loneliness. He's got a TED Talk on the quarter life crisis. This has already been viewed over 1.5 million times. Congratulations for that, Smiley. And then Smiley's work has been featured on in the New York Times, the New Yorker, Washington Post, Fast Company, CNN, World Economic Forum, and many, many others. So Smiley, I am thrilled to have you today to be my guest. Thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, Laura. It's great to be here today.
So I think that the obvious question that we're all wanting to know is, can you tell us a little bit about your name before we get started?
Sure. So my mom did not name me Smiley, contrary to popular belief. My birth name is Adam, which is a great name. But I have been called Smiley for nearly 20 years. I got the nickname freshman year of high school. I grew up in Cambridge, Massachusetts, right outside of Boston. And I wanted to play a sport freshman year of high school. I knew that I wanted to do a high school sport. I went to a big public high school, about 2,000 kids. I wasn't going to play football. I'm a pretty, short, scrawny dude. Our soccer team was one of the best in the state, and everyone was really good at soccer. I liked to play soccer, but I wasn't very good at it. And pretty much the only other sport in the fall was cross country. And for those of you that don't know, cross country is just running. You just go run for 3 miles or 5 miles or 10 miles in the rain, the snow, the sleet. In Boston, there's pretty nasty weather. So we just go running. And we're running hill workouts a couple weeks into the year, which is just you run up and down the hill over and over and over again. And I'm kind of just, minding my business, smiling, enjoying the time. And my coach is this kind of Boston guy, used to be a runner, real hard-nosed guy, kind of goes, "What the hell are you doing smiling? Stop smiling. Stop puking. Stop puking, kid." And so, yeah, he nicknamed me Smiley, and the team started calling me Smiley after that. And the nickname kind of carried on, and it was actually a pretty powerful experience because, I was one of the slowest kids on the team. I wasn't very good at running. I love to run. But I always showed up, and I had a lot of enthusiasm and kind of was this cheerleader for the team. And it was one of the first places I actually felt kind of belonging and being part of a team. A lot of people will say that with sports as a kid or maybe in high school. I think it was really important to me. I always kind of felt a little left out, a little, nerdy, dorky. I was nerdy, dorky. I still am. Now I'm more proud of it. Nerds are the best. We need more nerds in this world. But that team kind of made me feel, and those coaches made me feel like I mattered and that I was part of it, even though I wasn't the fastest or the best kid on the team or winning all the medals or placing first, but I mattered. And in fact, I became captain senior year of the team. So it was a really kind of formative experience in my life.
Smiley, we've talked a little bit about Robert Putnam's research, author of what is it?
Bowling Alone.
Yeah. And one of the things that he has talked about is how one of the benefits of being part of extracurricular activities, particularly sports, are the things that come with it, like a sense of belonging, feeling connected. I had that experience as well. I was a competitive gymnast starting when I was 10 years old, also competed on the Stanford women's gymnastics team. And that was always a safe harbor for me. So, particularly in high school, junior high school and high school, as a teenage girl, kind of navigating all of the different social dynamics, all of the dynamics around Mean Girls.
Yep.
That was always a safe harbor for me to feel like I really belonged. And so something that we want to make sure that every kid has that opportunity today to really feel like that they belong to something.
Yeah, and I think, with Robert Putnam's work, which I think he wrote that book nearly 20 years ago, or perhaps even more. It's kind of the decline of the social fabric of society, of those kind of places. Maybe it's high school sports, the local Rotary Club, the VFW, the Elks Club, where you're just kind of naturally going to weekly meetings or seeing people bowling or in a league like that, where you have that natural kind of heartbeat of connection. We've kind of lost that in our technologically advanced society. That kind of connection has been replaced often by technology or asynchronous communication, and it's not the same. There was something really amazing about having practice every day, right?
Yeah. Well,
and feeling part of that team.
Yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about, I know you have kind of an incredible story just around that. I know a good friend of yours started Camp Grounded, which was really it was built on the idea of serving as an antidote to, we're more connected than ever, but a lot of it's based in technology. And through that, we've actually become more disconnected. So tell us a little bit about that.
So yeah, one of my best friends in 2013 started an organization called Camp Grounded, which is a tech-free summer camp for adults. So I became a counselor at camp, and basically we take groups of adults, not kids, adults, 300 adults at a time, and take them into a summer camp, which was actually a summer camp for kids, but this is adults coming to the summer camp in the Redwoods in Northern California for 4 days. And when they show up, we take away all their technology and lock it in a big closet. Take their cell phones, their iPhones, their MacBooks, their Apple Watches, and they're not allowed to use technology for 4 days. They're not allowed to use their real name. So they have to have a nickname like Smiley or Cookie Surprise or Bricky or Sunshine, whatever it is. They can't talk about work. So there's no, what do you do? Where do you work? Oh, you work at Facebook. I work at this nonprofit, or I'm an entrepreneur. There's none of that. And there's no telling time, and there's no talking about age.
Wow.
Right? Oh, no. How old are you? Oh, you're 21. So you don't know anything. Or you're in your 60s. So like, I'm not going to talk to you. So it's everyone kind of, the point of it is to connect authentically and play. And the truth is, adults need play too. So Levi was this magical person that was really on the kind of front lines of talking about the negative impacts of technology on our lives. And that technology is really making people unwell. And if you think about the statistics, it's really alarming. I mean, the average person spending 8 to 12 hours a day on their screen, looking at their phone more than 150 times. People would sometimes rather check their phone than have sex. I mean, the data is alarming. And then if you look at it, especially for young people, right, we're seeing around the time that the iPhone started becoming prevalent and smartphones started becoming the norm, skyrocketing rates of teen anxiety, teen depression, and even teen suicide. The suicide rate for teenagers for children 10 to 14 years old has tripled between 2007 and 2017.
Smiley,
which is brutal. So
yeah, it's interesting that kind of the interplay between something like play and social well-being and even emotional well-being. And this is something certainly that is impacting all ages. And I'm curious from our viewers, as you're watching this, what are some of the contributors to this rise in loneliness, to this rising levels of suicide, depression, even so-called deaths of despair, which seems to particularly be hitting middle-aged white men. This is the research of Angus Deaton and Ann Case, two economists out of Princeton. But this is, why is it that we're seeing this incredible spike in, we're more connected than ever, and yet we're more disconnected than ever. And I just want to really briefly pick up on this strand around play and how important play is not only for children, but also for adults. And there's some really interesting research coming out of Boston University, a guy by the name of Peter Gray. And he's been looking at how there's actually been a precipitous decline in not only play, but undirected play.
Yes.
And how important that is for children to not just be in organized sports like you and I were, but to also have that undirected, unsupervised time for play. And apparently what his research shows is that this helps children to develop their so-called locus of control. So
Yes.
that locus of control is what helps them to navigate the inevitable ups and downs. So can you talk a little bit about kind of maybe how I know you've been particularly focused on millennials and how there's been this rise in loneliness and depression for this age group, but how do you think that might be connected with this research that Peter Gray has been looking at?
Yeah, so if you look at the definition of loneliness, what it really is the subjective difference between how you feel in terms of your connection levels and your expectations. So it's that gap, right? It's different than social isolation, right? Social isolation is you're alone. Now, some people that are socially isolated don't feel lonely, right? Maybe they're an introvert, or maybe they're happy to be in their cabin by themselves, or live in a New York City apartment and not see many people. They're fine. And then some people that are socially isolated are also lonely, right? But loneliness is that subjective difference. Everyone out there seems like they're having so much fun. They're doing all these cool things on Instagram. They didn't invite me to the party. I'm being left out. I'm missing out, right?
Right.
And I think that that's a big part of why we're seeing the skyrocketing rates, is that we're looking at this the whole time. So it feels like there's something going on. There's something I should be doing. There's something I should be a part of, but I'm not there. I'm here. I'm looking at my phone. I'm alone in my apartment looking at this thing. So it's that gap. And I think play helps close that gap and is immediate. We feel it. So it's not the dopamine hit that we get from the red notification dot on Facebook or Instagram of, you have 2 new likes. Someone looked at your post. It's, can I give you a hug? It's the immediacy of what happens. This connection is physical, right? Physical touch has been proven to be good for the human body. I mean, you think about our evolution, we're social beings. This is how we survive for ages in small tribes and villages. This is human. We're supposed to be touching each other or hugging or high-fiving or feeling close or running around, right? And we don't have that experience a lot now, especially as adults, right? I interviewed a guy, Brady Gill, in my book, who has been going to summer camp either as a camper and now a counselor, worked at summer camps for nearly 30 years. He's missed basically a couple summers since he was 6 years old. And he talks about this idea of questioning what it means to be a grown-up. When you're a kid, you are told it's recess now. Go play, do whatever you want. It's free time. It's that unstructured free time you were talking about. When's the last time you were told that as an adult? You have 2 hours to do anything you want. I want you to go play. I want you to make mistakes. I want you to learn. I want you to not know the answers. You're never told that as an adult. As kids, we tell that to kids all of the time. So that is kind of what happens when people have an experience like Camp Grounded or the experience of play as an adult, where they're rewiring their brain to be like, I don't know what I want to do right now. What is this person doing? Oh my God, maybe I don't like this thing that I'm doing with my career. Maybe I want to try something different. Maybe I want to do that. And it allows for discovery. It allows for creativity. It allows for really happiness and well-being.
What's really interesting, Smiley, is kind of the distinction between play and having fun. I think that there's a lot of pressure on adults to kind of offer social proof on social media that they're having fun, which I think is very different from play or even laughter. So did you have fun versus, reflecting back over the course of the day, did you laugh? And when was that? Or did you play? Two very different things. And even with happiness, I often feel like there's a mandate to be happy. And again, to prove that. And so, a book that was very moving for me after I lost my father was Joan Didion's book, The Year of Magical Thinking, in which she shared kind of the year of magical thinking after she lost her husband. Like, she kept thinking he was going to come back. And so that was the magical thinking. How can I give away his clothes? Because what will he wear when he comes back? And one of the hardest parts of this year following the loss of her longtime partner in life was this mandate to be happy, and how that actually made her less happy. And so maybe it's more about feeling content, but I'm wondering if we could kind of pivot here and you could talk touch on that a little bit, but also can you define for us a little bit about how would you define social well-being, and perhaps particularly in regards to this age group that you've been focused on, millennials?
Yeah. So, I mean, I agree with that. I think it's it's having the ability to feel all the feels. When I describe the Camp Grounded experience, it's not just like everything is amazing, life is amazing. It's some parts are really emotional, right? We have play shops where people might do a grief play shop, where they're talking about, the experience of grief, or where they're getting in touch with feelings and experiences that they haven't talked about with anyone else, or haven't had the space to talk about with anyone else. That can also be a form of play, but it's not smiling and having fun and joy. It's creativity. It's going there, right? It's having the space to go there.
It's also the connection, the authentic connection. So,
totally.
For example, I was just talking with my mom the other day, and I've been trying to make it a daily ritual. I call her every night, and so I asked her how she was doing, and usually she's like, "Oh, I'm great." And just the other day, she said, "I'm feeling grumpy," and we talked about that. And the fact that she responded by saying, "I'm feeling grumpy," actually served as a gateway for us to have a more authentic, meaningful conversation. So I really like the way social well-being perhaps is gateways for people to be able to engage authentically across all range of emotions, not just feeling this mandate to have fun together or to be happy, but instead we kind of have that full range.
I would define it simply as, having people in your corner that are there for you. That would be and knowing who those people are, having people in your life that are there for you and that you're there for them. There was, the definition I came across in Psychology Today was developing meaningful relationships with others and maintaining a support network that helps you overcome loneliness, which I thought was really great. And then there's a definition from the United States Institute for Peace, which I think is a little bit more social political, ability of people to be free from want of basic necessities and to coexist peacefully in communities with opportunity for advancement. Kind of more of a higher level zooming out of, because it's very hard to have that social well-being if you don't have your basic needs met, if you don't have, food and water and shelter or safety, right? Safety from violence or intimidation. But I kind of think of it as in the modern sense of this people in your corner, people that are there for you and knowing who those people are. And I think, one of the reasons I wrote this book is that I realized that many adults right now, especially young people, but folks of all ages, know that they have connections, right? They see it on LinkedIn or Facebook or in their email. There's a lot of people, I got people on Slack. I got people here. I got people there. I went to this conference. I'm meeting people, but don't know who is actually in their corner. In their inner circle, is their believer, is someone that's going to stand with them through thick and thin, through a pandemic, through a really challenging time, and taking the time to explore who those people are, find them if you don't have them, just, go deeper with them so that that you can go who your real friends are, and exploring that relationship and getting that meaning, that deep connection that we're all looking for is a vital thing that many of us don't take the time to do. It's very simple, but it's hard in practice. And it's rarely actually something that as an adult we do. We do it as kids all the time. We spend our entire lives as kids making friends, talking to friends, gossiping about friends, being like, oh my God, did that happen? Let's talk. Let's have a talk. Let's talk at lunch. You see our friends every day. It's amazing. As adults, we drift away from that. So I'm kind of, with the goal of this book is to bring people back to that kind of that intention.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that. And I just want to kind of frame this up a little bit as well. Charles Vogel, who's author of The Art of Community and is a friend of mine, talks about the idea of a 3 a.m. friend. So people that you feel comfortable enough with, who are in your corner enough so that you would feel like you could, if you needed to, you could call them at 3 a.m. And interestingly enough, 4 a.m. seems to be the time when people are most susceptible to suicide. That's often the time people feel most alone. And there was actually a play that came, I think it was called 4 a.m. or something, about that really being that critical time when we often feel most alone, when things feel the most bleak. So that's when we need to know that we can really call on those people who will be in our corner in our darkest hours, if you will. But let's talk a little bit more about we've talked about kind of what's gotten us here, what's going to move us forward. And if you would, can you talk about this first on a community level? What can we be thinking about doing on a community level? So, I mean, rates of loneliness have doubled over the past 4 decades. That's only been accelerated by the pandemic. What can we be doing about this kind of community by community?
Yeah, I think it starts with, I call it in the book, being a minister for loneliness in your community. Mm-hmm. So, this term, this is actually a position that was the UK first appointed after there was a big study kind of that exposed that skyrocketing rates of loneliness in Britain. 200,000 people, older people, hadn't talked to a close relative in over a month. 10% of people had no friends at work. Realizing this was an epidemic. So the prime minister appointed a minister for loneliness. Now, that would be great. Every country should have one of those. We should make policies and kind of think about this as on the federal level. And at the end of the day, I think we all know that it's not going to be government, but it's going to be small actions by different people in their communities to look out for each other. So I think this can be as simple as kind of creating a neighborhood potluck, when it's safe to do so, or social distance gathering, but when it's safe to gather again, a weekly potluck series in your neighborhood or a monthly series, right? Connecting different people in your neighborhood that are looking for similar things, whether it's around, a book club, a men's group, a women's circle, stuff like that, that are kind of regular rituals where you're bringing people together that wouldn't normally get a chance to connect. I think it can be some stuff of simply just saying hello to your neighbors and knowing who they are, which most people actually don't talk to their neighbors and don't know who their neighbors are. It can be getting involved in local volunteer efforts and community service efforts in your neighborhood, in your city, in your town, and encouraging other people to do that. And actually just having conversations with people, I think is, letting people know that you're there is a huge thing that very few people do.
I think it's really interesting. Even I think asking the question, do I have social well-being because of where I live, or am I more challenged around that? I thought we're both in the Bay Area, and interesting. There've been a lot of articles that have been coming out around the kind of the grand exodus from the Bay Area during the pandemic. And a recent article in the New York Times about this, one of the things that they started with was, are you tired of having unfriendly neighbors? And a lot of people are leaving. I mean, we just bought a house in Bend, Oregon. And one of the things that really struck me in buying a house in this new neighborhood in Bend was our neighbors. All of them, they wanted to meet us and they introduced themselves. And that doesn't happen as much, I think, in the community that we're in. But I think just even asking that question can help to spur some dialogue. Let's go down a level. How about within the workplace? What are some things that every workplace can be thinking about doing to promote better social well-being for their employees?
I think encouraging friendships at work. There's data that shows that people that have a best friend at work that can identify who their best friend at work is are 7 times more engaged with their work. So that friend doesn't mean like workplaces are always like, oh, we mean they'll work together and be friends. It's like, no, they're friends. They do things outside of work, but when they come back, they do better work, right? So facilitating friendship, that can be as simple as kind of having more opportunities for learning and sharing, where people are kind of sharing things they're passionate about, hobbies. Hey, check out this podcast I'm working on. I have an entrepreneurial side hustle. I want to talk about it at work. I'm, really into crafts or cycling or whatever it is. Letting people kind of bring their full self to work is going to encourage more bonds. Having opportunities at the start of meetings for people to share more about their personal lives.
Yeah.
Right? A simple check-in, a 1, a 2, a 5-minute check-in about your weekend, about something that's coming up for you, will allow people to realize that their coworkers are full humans, especially right now, especially in this kind of, remote hybrid workplace situation. Create more opportunities for people to be vulnerable and to share is going to break down those walls and barriers and allow people to connect more meaningfully. It's like, what we've done at the workplace is made it so that everyone is in charge of a specific thing at work. But what we've lost is remembering that people are full selves, and what they're really looking for, what we're all just looking for, is the ability to connect authentically, right? Psychological
Absolutely.
safety, being seen and heard. So let's build up those opportunities for that.
One message that I deliver to managers a lot is this idea of appreciating people, and particularly team members, not just for what they do, but for who they are as human beings. So these kind of opportunities for human to human authentic connections. So that brings us down to the next level. So an area that my work has really been focused on is really engaging those managers as keepers of well-being, and particularly of social well-being. So what are some things some suggestions that you would offer to managers around how they can help to create kind of safe harbors of social well-being within their teams?
First of all, I love that suggestion around praise, affirmation. I think, as simply having a channel, a Slack channel, or in whatever kind of, workplace collaboration tool that you're using, for people to be constantly sharing praise and celebrations. I saw what you did. That was amazing. This is why I appreciate you. I've seen people do tributes for their boss. Tribute is this service where people can make video montages. So, it's usually for birthdays or graduations, or, someone celebrating their 70th anniversary. People doing it for their managers, or managers and supervisors doing it for their employees, having everyone submit a 30-second or 60-minute little video on the team. And then the person gets it. They don't know it's coming. And they're like, oh my gosh, my coworkers care about me. They're actually listening every time we get on Zoom, right? Or have a meeting, or they actually read the report I did, and they actually listened to the struggles I was having with my daughter or my mother. They know that I love, this TV show, or read this, or I'm obsessed with this comic book series, whatever. That goes so far.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think everybody wants to feel like that they're cared for. And if there's anything that we can be doing, that's the number one thing, and really ties so much to social well-being. So we're coming to the end of our time here together. And what I would love it, Smiley, if you could share a little bit about how people can reach out to you, how they can get in touch with you. And AJ, I know you can also put this in the chat for everyone. So, and also particularly, I know people will be very excited about buying your book and pre-ordering it now. It comes out on May 4th. So share a little bit about how people can stay in touch with you.
Yes, please pre-order Friendship in the Age of Loneliness. You can get it on Amazon or wherever you buy books. You can learn more about my work and my speaking, and sign up for my newsletter at my website, smileyswolsky.com. Follow me on LinkedIn, follow me on Instagram.
Excellent. And for those of you who are listening, you can also, I encourage you to join my newsletter as well. All you need to do is to text Laura, in all caps, LAURA, to 66866. And AJ will also put that in the chat for you there, so that you can sign up for that as well. You'll also get your own guide to becoming me at my best, which will include some tips that we've learned from Smiley today. And you'll also get access to the YouTube channel, which this conversation today will be posted on that. So Smiley, in our last minute here together, let's bring this down to the individual. What would you say is the number one thing that the individual can do to become more socially connected with others, since we know that arguably social well-being is the most important element of overall well-being?
I would say if you're doing something today, just reach out to a friend you haven't spoken to in a while and let them know you love them. That would be my simple thing. And if you can do that today, if you can do that every day, I think you'll get closer and closer to that. Your well-being, social well-being levels will go up.
And you know, Bronnie Ware is a hospice nurse who worked with dying patients for over 15 years. And one of the top dying regrets that she heard over and over again is, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. So to your point, Smiley, maybe all of us can apply a little 2020 perspective right now in our lives so that we can reach out to those friends who matter most, because truly in the end, what matters more than the people that we love? And so let's show that right now. So Smiley, thank you so much for being our wonderful, fabulous guest today on this really important topic of social well-being, something that we all need to be thinking about. But again, particularly, we know that this is hitting millennials the hardest, but again, something that's affecting all ages. So we look forward to following your work. And again, thank you so much for being on our show today, and look forward to seeing your book come out on May 4th.
Thank you, Laura. Thanks for having me.
Bye, everybody. Thanks so much for being with us, and we'll see you next month, last Wednesday of the month on April 28th, and we'll be talking about physical well-being. With that, we're signing off. See you in a month.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
Smiley.
Thank you.